What's up, you friggin' geniuses? So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to divide scientific notation problems, right? So let's start with this example right up here. So we have 12 times 10 to the fifth divided by 3 times 10 squared. Okay, so the easiest way you can do this is kind of splitting your problem into two kind of smaller fractions. Okay, so you're going to basically have a fraction right here with your kind of leading numbers, and then another fraction right here with your tens. Okay, so we're going to split those up into their own little fractions and then just multiply them together. Okay, so then this is going to be equal to our first fraction right here, so 12 over 3. And then we're going to multiply that by our second fraction right here, 10 to the fifth over 10 squared. So 10 to the fifth over 10 squared. Okay, so now simplifying each of these, 12 over 3, or 12 divided by 3, that's going to be equal to 4, right? And then we're multiplying that by this other fraction right here. So how do you divide exponents? Well, we have the same base, right? We have a 10 and a 10, so you just keep the 10. And then your exponents right here, you just subtract them. And very important, you always start with the one on top. Okay, so we're going to have 5 minus 2, all right? You're going to subtract the bottom one. So 5 minus 2 is equal to positive 3, right? So we're going to have positive 3 right there. Okay, so here we're just left with 4 times 10 to the third power. And the last thing you have to do is just simplify this. And the way you do that is first you have to figure out where your decimal is on your leading number right here. So this is just the number 4, right? So the decimal point is right there, okay? Now, this exponent right here, the 3, is going to tell us how many times we're going to move our decimal point. Now, the only trick to this is figuring out if we're going to move it to the left or if we're going to move it to the right, okay? Now, whenever you have a positive exponent, you move it to the right, okay? So you're going to take your exponent and we're going to move it to the right 3 times, okay? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, okay? That's where your decimal is now. And then we have some empty place values right here, right? We have 1, 2, 3 empty place values. So you just fill those in with zeros. So instead of just 4, your answer right here would be 4,000. Okay, so then your answer right here would be 4,000. Boom. All right, let's try a couple more. Okay, so here we have 5 times 10 to the fourth divided by 10 times 10 to the negative 1. Okay, so again, the easier way of dealing with this is splitting it into two smaller fractions. So you're going to take your leading numbers right here, you're going to split that into a fraction, and then take your tens and split that into a fraction. Okay, so this is going to be equal to our first fraction right here, 5 over 10. 5 over 10. And then we're going to multiply that by the second fraction, 10 to the fourth over 10 to the negative 1. 10 to the fourth over 10 to the negative 1. Okay, so let's simplify some stuff. So 5 over 10, this is equal to 1/2. And 1/2 is also the same thing as 0.5, right? And then we're going to multiply that by our other little fraction right here. So again, we have the same base, right? We have a 10 and a 10, so you just keep the 10. And then in order to divide the exponents, all you have to do is subtract them. And again, you always start with the top number. So we're going to have 4 minus, and then the bottom number, negative 1. Negative 1. And then 4 minus negative 1 is the same thing as 4 plus 1. And 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay, so your exponent right here is going to be 5. Okay, so here we have 0.5 times 10 to the fifth power. And so the last thing we have to do is simplify this, and you do that by simply taking your decimal. So I'll write it down here, 0.5, right? So you take your decimal, and then your exponent right here tells you how many times you're going to move your decimal. So we're going to move it 5 times, okay? And are we going to move it to the left or to the right? Well, again, since we have a positive exponent, you move it to the right. So we're going to move it 5 times to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's where your decimal is now. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 empty place values, and you just fill those in with zeros. Okay, so 4 zeros right there. Okay, so now simplified, this is going to be, so 5 with 4 zeros, right? So this is going to be equal to 5 with 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we'll put our comma right there. So then your answer right here would be 50,000. All right, let's do one last example here. So we have 4.2 times 10 to the negative fifth divided by 6.9 times 10 to the negative 3. Okay, so again, I'm going to split this first part into a fraction and this second part into a fraction. And then we're just going to multiply those together. Okay, so 4.2 divided by 6.9. That's the first one, right? 4.2 divided by 6.9. And then multiplied by 10 to the negative fifth over 10 to the negative 3. So 10 to the negative fifth over 10 to the negative 3. All right, so let's simplify this. So 4.2 divided by 6.9, I'm actually going to round, and we're going to round that to about 0.61. Okay, and then our second fraction right here, 10 to the negative fifth over 10 to the negative 3. We have the same base, right? So again, you just keep that same base. And then we're going to subtract the exponents. Okay, so we're going to have negative 5 minus the bottom one, which is negative 3, right? Negative 3. So negative 5 minus negative 3, that's the same thing as negative 5 plus 3. And negative 5 plus 3 is equal to negative 2. Okay, so we're going to have a negative 2 right there. Okay, so we have 0.61 times 10 to the negative 2. Again, all you have to do is grab your decimal right here, and we're going to move it 2 times, right? Now, are we going to move it to the left or the right? Well, since this is a negative exponent, we're going to move it to the left. Okay, so we have 0.61, right? So we're going to grab your decimal and move it 2 times to the left. So 1, 2. So that's where it goes. And we just have one empty place value right here, so we'll put a 0 right there. So then your answer right here would be 0.0061. Okay, so this is going to be equal to 0.0061. Okay, and with decimal numbers like these, you normally put a 0 at the very beginning just as a placeholder, right? So then your final answer right here is 0.0061. So if you found the video helpful, definitely leave a thumbs up down below. And if you have any other questions or want to see any other examples, just let me know in the comment section below. Also, there's a couple playlists attached that I think you'll find helpful, so definitely check those out, and I'll see you there.